And so first off, I'm going to introduce the three partners, and then we'll go over the benefits of the campaign and talk a little bit more about how you can all become involved. If you have questions, just put them in the chat and then we'll answer them during the Q&A session. And if there's anything you want to follow up on, we can follow up after, and we can also unmute you if you want to ask just a little more about your question. So make sure you put them right in the chat, and we'll go from there. And also, we'd love to know a little bit more about who's here. We know that there's at least 23 organizations, I think, represented all over the state, certified CDCs, other mission-aligned nonprofit affordable housing organizations. We also have a lot of consultants and building science firms on the line. And so would love to hear if you want to put your name, your organization in the chat and share what motivated you to come here. Would love to, and I can share a little bit of that with folks. So just put in the chat why you're here, if you have solar on your portfolio, and if so, how much you have, and what brings you here today. And I can keep on moving, and we'll share some of those popcorn style as they come in. So again, thank you for joining us. This is the being co-launched, the STAR program, with MACDC, LISC, and Resonant Energy. And so just sharing a little bit about the three partners, and then I'll bring it over to Resonant Energy to share more about the technical aspects of the program. So LISC, we are a nationwide affordable housing organization. We support investment in affordable housing and small business in economic opportunity for Americans in urban and rural areas of the country. The LISC's Green Retrofit program, which is now called our Green Homes program here in the Massachusetts area, we got started about 10 years ago to make sure that people could maximize the lean, the low-income arm of the Mass Save program. And since then, we've really expanded to make sure that owners are maximizing energy efficiency of their portfolios. They're moving toward appropriate clean energy technology, and then thinking about solar and other resilient affordable housing, and really being prepared for the future, what our future climate will look like. So we've been really excited to think about this next step of solar, and we know that a lot of you are already having solar on your portfolios and really taking that next step. And just in the chat, it looks like folks are representing all over New England, and I know that a lot of you have already really looked at your portfolios and gone deep on energy efficiency and clean energy, and maybe owners or property managers I see as well, and really excited to have you join us today. Thank you. So our partner, MACDC, is an association of mission-driven community development organizations, and they're dedicated to working together together and with others to create places of opportunity where people of diverse incomes and backgrounds can access housing that's affordable, can benefit from economic opportunities, and can fully participate in the civic life of their communities. So MACDC achieves this by building and sustaining a high performance and adaptive community development sector that's supported by private and public investments in sound public policies. And so a little more about the STAR program, which we're co-launching with solar provider Resonant Energy, MACDC, and LISC together. This program is really designed to provide resources to support Massachusetts affordable housing owners interested in on-site solar renewable energy generation for your buildings. We're excited to have you all join us. We know that many of you are already considering solar or have solar on your portfolios, and we really see this as complementary to the deep energy efficiency and clean energy work that you're already doing. So a little bit about the campaign, and we can dive into details on this later, is that the goal is really to provide tools for your organization to explore solar feasibility for your portfolio. Thanks to our generous donors for this campaign, we're able to offer at least 10 qualified organizations with small grants of $2,000 to review the solar feasibility of your portfolio. You don't need to commit to installing solar as part of this, but we want to make sure that we give you the staff time, this providing the support so that you can really have the capacity to review your portfolio with Resident Energy and do a full analysis. Grant preference will be given to certified CDCs. We're also going to preference organizations with higher need and with geographic diversity. We want to make sure that folks from all across Massachusetts are engaged in this. And we also will provide preference to organizations that apply within the first round, which is in this February, to the program. Our ultimate goal, as you can see, is to install 1 megawatt of solar. That's about 2,500 solar panels, and which is ambitious, but we definitely think we can do it in the next year and a half together with all of you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Madeline Barr, who's the VP of Outreach and Sales and co-founder at Resident Energy. And Resident Energy is our third partner in the STAR program, to share more about Resident, give a solar overview, and explain next steps for participation in the program. And again, just a reminder, make sure as you have questions for us, just put them in the Q&A, and we'll hold them till the Q&A, but we'll have about 15 minutes at the end. So we'll make sure we get to your answer at your question at that point. So thank you again, and I'll turn it over to Madeline.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be able to see you. Miss doing this kind of thing in person, but glad a lot of you made time to join. Yeah, as Emily introduced, my name is Madeline. I'm the VP of Outreach and Sales and a co-founder at Resident Energy. I've been working in the clean energy field for about 10 years now, with some work in energy efficiency and building science, as well as municipal electric utility companies and electric vehicle programs. And what really drives me in this space is seeing that clean energy can be a potential not just for a cleaner climate, but also for a more equitable economy. Resident Energy, we are based in Dorchester. We actually got our start in this church that you see pictured. That's a second church in Dorchester in Codman Square. We're now based just up the road a little bit in Fields Corner. And our focus is really on how do we expand access to clean energy to nonprofits, affordable housing, and limited resource communities. We work with a network of impact financiers. We put together innovative financing arrangements to be able to tackle some of the affordability barriers that have stopped tax-exempt organizations and limited resource organizations from going solar in the past. And so we will bring together those resources. We also offer competitive bidding with installation partners and a rigorous analysis that will be customized to what your organization needs. So you can go to the next slide. You go to the next slide. Thanks. And so we've had the privilege to do a lot of work with affordable housing organizations already in the Boston area. The picture in the top left, Madison Park Development Corporation, just turned on their 15th solar project right at the end of December. We're also working with Somerville Community Corporation, South Boston, and DC. And then in that bottom corner, we're doing work with the New York Housing Authority out of New York City to solarize 35 of their buildings, doing a cool sort of reverse community solar project there. And go to the next slide. So I wanted to start just to make sure we were all sort of speaking the same language as we talk about solar, and give a kind of a quick overview of what we'll be talking about. And I know a lot of you are going to be very familiar with this, so we'll touch just quickly on it. But when we talk about the solar system, the solar array, it is the panels that you see on the roof And the panels are then attached to the actual structure of the building through these mechanical racking. And that actually will secure the panels themselves to the building structure. For flat roof buildings, we have different options that do allow a non-penetrating attachment to the building. That during the analysis, that will be something we would look for if your building is eligible for that. One of our priorities in the feasibility is looking at your roof condition and your structural integrity to make sure that the strategy we come up with is one that actually works for your building. And I know a lot of these buildings are old building stock that have plenty of unique needs when it comes to their structure. The panels are then all, we can actually stay on that last slide for one more minute. The panels will all have a panel level monitoring. So that means that you and us and the financer will be able to see exactly which panels are working. And if one of them fails, it will only be that panel and we can know exactly which one. And so all of that will be through either microinverters or micro optimizers. And those are then all connected through a single conduit that you see there that runs through and connects to the inverter. And the inverter is what's doing really the heavy lifting of the solar array, converting the direct current that's coming in from your solar panels into alternating current, which is a useful power for your appliances or for your common meter, maybe your hallway lights. And then the other important piece of this picture is that you are always connected to the utility grid. So even on some projects where we're exploring storage, you're still connected to the grid so that on days where we have snow or it's dark out, you'll never be without power unless the grid itself actually shuts down the power. But you will always be connected so that you can pull when your panels are not producing. And then likewise, since you are connected, if your panels produce more power than you need in a given moment, that goes back through the grid and you get a credit. That process is referred to as net metering. All right, now we can go to the next slide. So the incentives are an important part too about the whole process. I think, again, some of you who have solar, which it sounds like a lot, are probably very familiar with these different incentives. The federal investment tax credit just got extended at the end of 2020, so it will remain at the 26% level for an additional 2 years. The Massachusetts SMART incentive is a really excellent program. It's one of the programs that sets Massachusetts sort of apart as being one of the better states to go solar. This is a direct cash incentive to the owner of the solar array for either 10 or 20 years. And there are two specific carve-outs for affordable housing organizations to benefit with specific, what we refer to as adders, additional incentives for affordable housing. And then this last one that I referred to just a moment ago, net metering, you can also partake in a virtual net metering. And what that means is that if your building overproduces, we can also take those credits and apply them to a different electric bill that your organization owns. So we have some more flexibility. And when we look at your portfolio, looking not just at what's the electric bill and solar production of just your one building, but how can we spread it out to really optimize your benefit across your whole building, your whole portfolio, your whole collection of buildings. Let me go next slide. This slide I'm going to just touch on briefly, but wanted to offer a sort of snapshot of how we think about some of the financing options. So all the way at the bottom, you can see is sort of the standard solar option where you buy the panels outright. Maybe that tax credit goes to an equity partner, maybe it's sort of left aside, but then you would get the full benefit of all the electricity and all the SMART incentives. The first two options up there, power purchase agreement and site lease, are probably what we see as the most popular option with affordable housing organizations. And these are no-cost options. So we work with a mission-aligned financer that will purchase, put up the full capital cost of the equipment, manage maintenance and insurance, and you will just get either discounted electricity or, in the case of a site lease, essentially a payment for your space. And the reason we might choose one over the other is if depending on your electricity usage on site, or if you've got a very big space, such as like I don't know, a parking lot perhaps would be good for a site lease. And where else we could send the power to, whether that has to stay in your portfolio or go outside your portfolio. And then the prepaid PPA is sort of a hybrid of the two. This is an option where a third-party financer will benefit from the tax credit and offer you an upfront discount of 20 to 30% of the total system cost. But since it's called a prepaid PPA, since you are prepaying for the electricity, so then everything that's produced from the system, all of the electricity value goes to you for the life of the system at no cost. So this one also, it's if there's interest in either taking out a loan or if it's a new construction or working with your LIHTC partners, this could be a very good option too, because it delivers long-term meaningful financial savings. So all of this to say that when we start working with you, and our goal is to understand what some of your organization's priorities are, how you're thinking about these projects, and then we strive, when we do an analysis, to put together one option, or two options rather, one that would be a no cost and one that would resemble more of an ownership, so that you can sort of see them side by side and work with your teams to figure out what's the best pathway based on your organization's needs. Go to the next slide. So I've referred to this portfolio analysis a couple times to give a little bit more detail about what is entailed by it. We would start by doing a design. So if you've got 5 buildings, if you've got 35 buildings, we will start in just looking at solar feasibility. So how many solar panels can fit on your roof? What is going to be the expected output of those panels? Is there shading? Are there building issues? So we'll start with just a preliminary layout of the solar for each of your buildings. Stage 2 is that we will identify which are the priority projects. What sites are best suited for solar? Which ones will look a little more marginal? Which ones are infeasible? And so we can work with you if you are, if you're interested in doing the whole portfolio. Maybe we do all of the feasible projects now. Maybe we prioritize and just do them in stages, do the batch of top priority projects now, the next batch next year. So we can work with you to sort of categorize them into best suitability. We'll then work with you to strategize around potential issues. Maybe they're old buildings, maybe there are roof issues or an upcoming renovation that we need to plan around. We've worked with a lot of different kinds of buildings, and I will not ever say that we have encountered all of the issues, but we have certainly encountered a lot of issues. So I think we'll work with you to figure out what does that pathway look like. We'll review the relevant financial pathways and what incentives you qualify for, how those incentives play into the financial offers that you're interested in. And then, like I mentioned, we'll present them side by side so that we can discuss through what a PPA offer looks like or what a prepaid PPA offer looks like for these set of buildings. And then we'll work with you to outline the next steps for either near-term or long-term solarizing of your buildings. So it's a custom analysis. It's specific to your buildings, to your needs. And we see that as that's what's required to really expand access to solar, is that in fact, no two organizations have the same exact profile of what they're going to need and what their buildings look like. So we take a customized approach with each organization. We can go to the next slide. And to add a little bit more color to that, this is just a brief case study with Somerville Community Corporation, whom we're working with right now. We're working with them on 16 sites, 7 prepaid PPAs. So again, that's that hybrid option, 6 power purchase agreements, so 6 no-cost options, and 3 direct purchase. The organization's total lifetime savings on that portfolio is close to $1 million, and that includes the upfront costs they made on those prepaid PPAs. We were able to work with our network of impact funders, emission-aligned lenders, to get them $50,000 in grants for roof replacements, an additional nearly nearly $600,000, $500,000, excuse me, in solar loans, in roof loans. We replaced, out of their 16, 9 roofs had to be replaced, and they are producing nearly, actually just over 7.5 million kilowatt hours of solar electricity and about 6,000 tons of CO2. So really, I know I focused on the financial benefit. The environmental benefit is very real and very meaningful when you take all these buildings and add clean energy to power them. So for next steps, we're going to open up the application period on Monday, on February 1st. And the first round will be open for the full month of February. And so there will be a very brief application to submit on LISC's website. And I think as Emily noted, that we will be reevaluating if there's more than 10 qualified or 10 interested organizations, which it seems like there may be. We will reevaluate if there's additional capacity and funding to provide the grant to additional organizations. We'll announce the first round of organizations in mid-March, and then, starting in February and for the next few months, scheduling these kickoff calls and reviewing the grant MOU. And so in those kickoff calls will be where, my team will have a chance to understand a little bit more about your building, your financial priorities, different equity investors that you're working with, and then we can collect some information from you, including electric bills and roof ages and pictures of buildings meters, so that we can then start working on these portfolio analysis. And so that will be sort of an ongoing thing from the kickoff call for the next couple of months to review that analysis with either me or someone from my team, and then we can figure out what those next steps look like. And as Emily noted, our vision for this campaign is keeping affordable housing organizations at the center of the state of Massachusetts renewable energy movement. And so we're excited to really see where this goes. So I think with that, we wanted to leave a bunch of time for Q&A. So with just 1 minute, we'll take a look through. It looks like some questions have ended up in the chat, and we'll dive into that.
Great, thank you, Madeline. I think that we had a couple questions so far. I think Eileen Vogel from North Shore CDC had asked a bit about cost benefit of solar in a passive house building that's already very highly efficient. Eileen, I don't know if you had a specific question about that or if you are able to unmute yourself to share more, but happy to answer.
Yeah, hi. Yes, we're actually in the process of building something in Gloucester right now, which is passive house. And so it's the first passive house project that I've worked on. And we've been told by, the architect that we should expect very low energy bills to begin with because of the way it's being designed. We are making the roof solar ready, but there are costs involved in actually installing the panels. And I'm really sort of hesitant. I'm sort of on the fence as to whether or not I feel it's worth pursuing it to go ahead and incur the cost, because I'm just not quite sure how beneficial it will be if our energy costs are so low to begin with. So I was just curious about if you're installing these on passive house and what what the benefits might be for a project such as mine.
Yeah, that's great. And exciting to hear about the Passive House initiative. Congratulations on that progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, the buildings that already have very low electricity needs won't have a huge offset. It might be a slightly longer return on investment. But if your organization owns the solar, you could essentially zero out your bill. So even if it's like a $50 a month bill or less than that, you could cut that cost and you would be eligible for this additional state incentive. So buildings that have huge electric load might might see the system pay for itself in like, as little as like 6 or 7 years. A building that has a much smaller electricity use, like the passive house, would need a smaller system, but maybe you'd be looking at more like a 7 or 8 year payback
Oh.
on that solar.
Just still good, yeah. Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm.
And then it looked like Andy Howarth at Worcester Community Housing Resources in Worcester is looking at solar for several buildings, including some historic buildings. So Madeline, I don't know if your team has had experience with putting solar on historic preservation deals or anything like that. But if there's any pointers there or thoughts on participation eligibility.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's definitely worth exploring. We have worked with a number of historic district commissions across the state. A lot of in addition to affordable housing, we do a lot of work with churches and houses of worship. And so we have a number of buildings that have, that sort of classic, like historic stone facade, and then a nice sheet of solar panels that I think is actually a very beautiful contrast. But that to say is we do work with historic buildings. We've seen a lot of success. If we're talking about a flat roof, it's unlikely the panels will be viewable from the street, which tends to be the biggest concern for historic district commissions. And if it is a visible roof, if it's a sloped roof, we can do an installation with all black solar panels. So different than the ones that were just viewable on that screen, that are sort of the bluish with the grid marks. We have sort of an all black sleek panel that it looks much more sort of flush with a roof. So we've had a lot of success. I don't think we've had some historic district commissions with more specific requirements, but generally have seen that they're open and interested in promoting solar.
The one that we are most concerned about in terms of historic is a building that was developed in 2011. It was finished in 2011, and it has historic tax credits. It's a big mill building in Gardner, and we had to put cooling towers on the roof and had to go through the whole NPS approval process to get the chillers in. And since the historic tax credits have lapsed, they're more than 10 years ago. So we now, I honestly don't know the process we'd have to go through with National Park Service, but it's an assisted living facility, so it uses a lot of electricity, and it's a big building. So I think that would be one of our primary targets.
Yeah, interesting. Let's definitely speak more about it. If the historic tax credits have lapsed, I would imagine that they're not going to be a barrier. And we actually have worked with a couple of our sites in the city of Boston that did have active historic tax credits. And then with regards to the National Park Service, we definitely have seen mixed reviews on different sites. We are doing a site with them, a facilities building for a historic cemetery in the Boston area that is also sort of technically historic by the National Park Service as opposed to the city. But we have not seen a precedent of the National Park Service putting up obstacles to solarizing. So it seems very doable, but yeah, would be definitely interested to speak further about that.
Thank you. And Tabitha had a question. When will the application be available? We'll send it out on Monday to everybody here who registered or attended, and we'll also have it. It will be available on LISC's website. So we'll make sure everybody gets that link. It will be pretty short, but just wanting to get a little bit more information about what your portfolio looks like, what the characteristics are, what your organization is, what the background is. And just I know that Ben from Maloney asked a little more about who will be eligible for the first round of grants. This is, and so this is a question of if you're a property management company, you may work with multiple owners. We're preferencing certified CDCs, But that being said, if you're a mission-aligned, affordable housing owner, we want to work with you. If there's a bit of a unique ownership structure, maybe a co-op, we reach out and we can have a one-on-one conversation about what makes sense. Ben, I don't know if you had any specific question that you wanted to unmute yourself and ask, but happy to answer if so.
Good. That was that pretty much addressed what I was thinking about. We manage a lot of properties that we don't necessarily own, and some are CDCs, obviously, and some are not. So I was just curious as to what types of ownership setups we would be kind of thinking about getting more involved with, in properties we manage with, and kind of promoting this and so on.
Yeah, great. It's a great question. I think first order of business will be the CDCs. And then if there's other nonprofit affordable housing owners, they'll be next in line with, and we're looking also at geographic diversity and level of need, of course. If you're a for-profit owner, we are open to talking. The grant won't be on the table, but would love to talk more and potentially work with you as well. And I think that beyond that, Eileen, there was just a question that Peter was asking Eileen there. Don wanted, yes, we do want to work with a broad array of owners and property managers, certainly. So if you're representing an ownership entity or representing an affordable housing portfolio, please just reach out if you have any questions about the eligibility, and we're happy to answer. You can reach right out to myself, and I'll share my email in the chat. Greg asks, is battery storage a part of this program? Great question, Greg. Madeline, do you want to share a little bit more?
Yeah. I thought battery storage might come up, and it's definitely an important part of the whole resiliency picture. So glad to hear that you're thinking about it. It can be part of the program. It can be part of the portfolio analysis if it's a priority and an interest for your organization. We're seeing different things with batteries across the board. Right now, they're still fairly expensive, so it's not a sort of automatic addition to a portfolio that we're looking at. But if it's interesting to your organization, we are connected with a couple different grant programs that do provide some additional funding. So I would say it is a part of the program as a sort of maybe more custom piece. But it is something that we're including in a handful of our projects, some affordable housing and some much larger systems as well, integrating them with battery storage.
Great, thank you. I think Isaac from Resident notes that no obstacles from National Park Service. It sounds like, Andy, other than somewhat slow to actually review paperwork. If folks have any other questions, and please put them in the chat, or if you're unable to join the chat, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself right now and ask your question, we can hear you.
Hi, it's Peter Mosbacher, Webster Bank Community Development. I cover the whole Southern New England region for Webster Bank. We're primarily a Connecticut-based regional commercial bank, and I'm interested to know about any possible expansion plans or activity in Connecticut. I do see on your website you're involved in Long Island and other areas of New York. I was just curious about your interest or current work in Connecticut and how we might get involved.
Yeah, that's a great question, and relevant as our company is thinking about our 5-year plan and our next steps. I would say we will probably over the next couple of years look at investing more time in New York. We don't have any plans as of right now to be going into Connecticut. But good to know that there's a resource there. I know Connecticut does have very strong solar incentives. So it's will be, I think, part of our conversation, but not in the super near term.
Sure, I'd be happy to make introductions if needed. I know there's a couple of CDFIs, similar to LISC that have this as an interest. Capital for Change is certainly one group that is currently very focused on alternative energy for affordable housing. Maybe there's some synergy there.
Yeah, I would love to follow up offline and speak a little bit more about what you have in mind, and can share more about sort of what our approach is and what our plans for growth look like.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And I think we may have, Madeline, you may have mentioned this, the question is batteries are not in all deals, correct? And it seems like that's more the exception right now than the norm, but if there's anything you want to add there about batteries and tied in.
Yeah, definitely. So batteries are not the norm. I would say it's something that we could discuss in the kickoff call, where we can learn a little bit more about your buildings and see if there are sites that batteries would make particular sense for. So we're doing them more on a sort of pilot basis. So I would say definitely open to discussing it more. It's not a standard part of our analysis right now.
Thank you. And John Mahoney was asking, can these be tied in with car charging systems? That's very creative. I don't know, John, if you want to, are you working on a specific project? Or are you thinking about if there's anything you want to add there? It would be interested to hear. And then Madeline, if there's anything thoughts you have on tying it into EVs, electric vehicles, I assume there.
No, there's not any specific project I'm working on, but I was just curious.
For sure.
Because like there are programs to put in car charging stations at properties now too from the state.
That's right. So the answer is it depends how we connect and how we finance the solar array. But essentially, it's definitely, and how the EV chargers are connected as well. We have done work with EV chargers and can even for new construction buildings or existing construction, actually for retrofits, help you estimate what the increased kilowatt hour capacity is going to look like over the course of the year, thereby sort of how much larger we might need to build a solar array to meet that need. So we can provide that analysis if the EV chargers are connected through, sometimes they're connected through their own meter, or if you went through the EV Make Ready program, or if we were doing, if you're the one paying that bill, it would make more sense to bundle it in if that's covered by another entity, a little bit less so. So short answer is it largely depends on the financing and how the solar is going to be interconnected to the utility. But we would definitely be considering EV charging, and if you are interested in adding it. Eversource actually, and I think National Grid as well, has a program right now called EV Make Ready, where for organizations, I think with a certain number of staff, a minimum of maybe it's like 10 staff, Eversource will do a lot of the electrical work to make your site ready for EV charging stations. So you would still have to purchase the EV charger, but Eversource would actually do the make ready work. And I mixed up two incentives. There is an incentive for organizations with a minimum staff number to get a discount on the EV equipment. And then the EV Make Ready program is offered by Eversource with, I think, only a sort of rolling application deadline.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Madeline. And just a note, we will share all of this slide deck and the recording. We'll have that online and we'll share it with this list. So yeah, fear not. And I think Isaac was just sharing maybe with Peter about Inclusive Prosperity Capital to look into them, their website. Sharon Cho, it looks like you're unmuted. Did you have a question, or did anybody else on the line want to unmute and ask their question? Not seeing any. We answered all of the questions. Well, nope. Okay, Sharon is unmuted. Great. Well, we will, what we're going to do, our next steps is we will share all of this information with the attendees and registrants. We'll have this on List Boston, our website. We're really excited to have you participate. If you have any questions, please just be in touch. I put my email in the chat, ejones@lisc.org. So we'll talk with you very soon, and we'll have a short Q&A as well on the website. So keep the questions coming. We'll make sure we update that accordingly. Thank you for your time this morning. And Madeline, is there anything else that we've forgotten that we should add before we end?
No, I think that's it. Thanks to Greg for sharing the Mass EVIP program, which is the discount on the electric vehicle equipment for organizations with staff. But no, that's it. Really excited to see so much interest in this campaign.
Terrific. Thank you, everybody. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So much. This was great.
Thank you.